Mr. Nair, as you describe yourself as the policy guy, how do you see what is being spoken about here in terms of policy and ways of understanding how to change things?
Now, very good question. I'm glad you put it along those lines. So let's look at it this way, and I'll speak for the South Asian context, keeping in mind what most of the other speakers have now mentioned. South Asia has 8 countries. Now, out of these 8 countries, 6 of them are active labor sending countries. So there is a global estimate of 164 million migrant workers in the world. Out of these 164 million migrant workers, close to 50 million migrant workers come from just these 6 countries. Now, that's a big amount, keeping in mind the fact that that is, over 1/3 of the global migrant worker population come just from South Asia. Now, within that context, if migrant workers have to come back, and we know that most of the migration flow from these 6 countries are to either the Middle East, Southeast Asia, or within the region. And that is all in the route of temporary labor migration. So when people move on temporary flows, there has to be that immediate understanding that they will return. So with that in mind, do governments then have policies? I mean, if you talk about perspectives of return migration, that they will come back because it is a temporary migration flow, do governments have policies in the region? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. So perhaps that has been one of the biggest gaps that we have seen at the policy level in South Asia. Is out of the 6 or out of all the South Asian countries, there is only one country which has a solid policy on reintegration, and that is in Sri Lanka. Now, this then leads us to ask, what kind of policies do they have in place in general, looking at the broader issues of reintegration? Take, for instance, apart from the fact that there is a reintegration policy, a lot of the countries have jobs policies, have employment policies, have issues pertaining to livelihoods, and have policies on all these various different aspects. In quite a few countries, when migrant workers come back, they are not considered to be of a status where they can access, let's say, services that are applicable to nationals in those countries who are below the poverty line. Now, that's already an integral problem. It's a problem in the sense that a lot of these people are viewed to be better off than people who are in their countries of origin. Now, that is a perception that has gone totally wrong. So if migrant workers are not able to access those services at the local level, then that is an issue as well. The third element in terms of the broader policy issue is, and I appreciate how Dr. Margaret Walton Roberts put some of those elements together, going right down to that panchayat level or the local level in some of these states, as we call them in India. When you go down to the local level, then you start making the link top to bottom up in terms of the coordination at the whole of government or through the whole of government approach. The coordination is perhaps very, very difficult. And that is because it also includes, coordination includes sharing of information between the different ministries involved, between central government and state government, and amongst local authorities within the different states as well. So when somebody comes back to a country, I am an Indian national. Let's say I was living wherever in the world and coming back. I'm not just coming back to my country, I am going down to that village, that community that I come from. And there is a local self-government that is involved there. So it requires a whole range of coordination between and in this whole of government approach that requires for us to take things forward at the policy level for reintegration to truly be efficient and successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.